version. I think we're talking about version brackets. There's two instances of this song on.
There are two versions, two mixes basically.
So
yeah.
the one I'm thinking about begins with just Billy Mackenzie's voice,
right.
and then there's a kind of weird zither sound, like suggesting chords but not really showing them.
Wir Menschen von ganz vorne der Stein.
Ein Fleck oben im Eck. That was what my association was of how I heard this. If it would have been a composer, how the melody would go, or what the backdrop of the chords would be. Now, when we recorded this, and the melody was there, we then arranged it like a completely what do you say, gewöhnlich, a normal kind of,
right, a willed composition, a kind of
as if it was a
conscious,
completely consciously.
Yeah, so the random element stopped at that point. Yeah,
yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And that was the idea. By arranging it like a pop arrangement, you would give the impression that this was actually a composition.
I think that's one thing I find so appealing about the song, that it seems very unpredictable, almost like through composition, although there is some repetition, but in through compositions, the song, usually it's a song based around a text, a poem, which doesn't have regular stanzas and rhymes and things, so it wanders. So there's a sense of it wandering almost in a completely unpredictable way, but then there is a repetition because you go through the same structures twice. But can you remember what sample that was at the beginning, the droning zither sample?
Right. All the samples in that song are from recordings of ancient Greek music.
Ah, fascinating. Because it reminds me of very much of the Atrium Musicae de Madrid, who made a record of ancient Greek music, although nobody knows what that sounds like, but they made a fantastic record. Maybe you actually sampled that record, I don't know.
Perhaps, I don't know. I had various, well, they must have been records at the time. Yeah. And I was interested in obviously these were interpretations of ancient Greek music, but I was interested because obviously they didn't have the so-called what's it called?
Chromatic scale.
Temperate
scale. Yeah.
Temperate.
Yeah.
Scale.
Yeah.
Temperate scale, which has 12 exact steps. These were different, so that's why that gives it that weird kind of sound. You can't quite make out, what's kind of weird about it. What's weird about it is it's non-tempered.
You already had at this point the text, which is written by Wolfgang Müller, who was only an art student at the time. He was an art student in Hamburg in the mid-80s. He graduated, I think, in '87, but he was already doing Die Tödliche Doris, this avant-garde performance and music group. Did you go into the studio with a text from Wolfgang and want to set it? I mean,
basically, I wanted to use some lyrics from Wolfgang because I liked his lyrics very much, so I don't know how I met him, but we went to the studio together and he presented me some of his lyrics.
Right. So he was there while you were singing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And but it was written already. He didn't write it there in the studio.
No, it was written already, and it was based on an experience that he had as an artist. Okay, the lyrics go no, it wasn't. That was 48 Kissen.
Ah, yes.
Different one. Okay, that was also by Wolfgang Müller.
Yeah.
No, Oben im Eck was more a poetic piece. We didn't discuss what the content was.
Can you quickly translate into English for us the lyric? Do you remember the lyric?
How does the first line go? I mean
something about Holstein. No, yeah, Holstein.
Yeah, Holstein steht unten.
Steht unten.
Well, basically, it's a description of a landscape.
What is a Holstein? It's a wooden stone. Holstein.
I don't know if it's Holstein. I don't think it's. Sorry, can we stop maybe and I get the lyrics?
Well, perhaps later we.
Okay.
But so it's a description of a landscape, a rather strange, bizarre landscape with things up in the corner, and something drifts off into the sky at the end.
Yeah, it's basically an abstract, poetic piece of very lyricist. Almost, I would describe it as almost romantic.
Right.
But I don't know. I mean, you'd have to ask Wolfgang about how he views this. I mean, I interpreted it as almost like in the tradition of neo-romanticism, sort of at the turn of the century in Germany.
Right. Like Rilke or something, or
what was the name again? Can I get some?
Sure.
Okay.
You can go. I'll talk to the camera while you're away about that.
Okay.
Fill in the space. Yeah, I want to talk while Holger is looking for the lyric. Just talk about why this song was important to me, and I think it's influenced me over the last 10 years more than it did before that. I was given a copy of Oben im Eck, the album by Nicky Kafalis, who was doing press on it, and was also doing my press in the late 80s, probably in 1888. And I think she gave me the record because of the photographs by Chris Garnham on the front, and I then was meant to work with Chris Garnham, the same photographer who took this picture. And then Chris was tragically drowned on the Marioness ferry. There was a fashion party, and many people were killed when this boat was rammed by a dredger on the Thames, and they couldn't swim ashore. So I never worked with Chris Garnham, but the album that Nicky gave me somehow marked me, and particularly two songs on Oben im Eck, Tiny Little Cloud, which is very Kurt Weill, and the title track Oben im Eck. And you can hear it particularly if you want to hear the influence on my songs. Hear it in Beowulf, for instance. I think Beowulf is very influenced by that song. Several of my more recent songs are. And I think it's fascinating to hear Holger confirm that actually the samples were of ancient Greek music, because that's something I particularly love. These weird scales and a sense of distance. There's a kind of aggressive non-aggression in Oben im Eck. It's a pop song in a sense, but it's absolutely, it could be from thousands of years ago, it could be from the Epic of Gilgamesh. And I love that sense of distance and strangeness, and it's really hors série, it's without any peers. I mean, if Spotify or Last FM had to group the song with other songs, it would really have a tough time, because there really isn't anything like that. It's very German, and I'm supposed to be somebody who cares a lot about lyrics, but actually I don't know what the lyric says, and it doesn't matter, because it's the texture of the German which really counts for me.
Die zwischen den Lagen stützen sich ab vom Stein.
The through composition also probably influenced the Little Red Songbook album quite a lot, because there's that sense of not knowing. And I think this is something that romantic German Lieder does, Schubert especially, Schumann also, I guess. These are like pop songs, but they don't have repetition. So that's really interesting. The song seems to wander in the same way that a line of verse might wander.